The Illinois Department of Transportation wants to rebuild a section of Illinois Route 29, but it would require the removal of 8 homes in the area and relocate a Peoria Park District landmark. IDOT is seeking public input on proposals to reconstruct Route 29, which is Galena Road from just north of the McCluggage Bridge in Peoria Heights to north of Gardner Lane in Peoria. The state plans improvements to a more than 2.5-mile stretch of Route 29, adding a bidirectional turn lane and space to accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists. IDOT would convert about 1 acre of Park District property to highway use and relocate the Grandview Drive Pavilion. The project would also require the demolition of 8 homes. A public open house hearing is scheduled for Wednesday. More details on our website at 25newsnow.com.